G'day team, welcome to another tiny build scale modeling video. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to paint up a BF109 in tropical desert camouflage scheme, specifically the JG27 Africa 1941 to 1942 scheme. Now there are a few different variations of this camo out there depending on the aircraft and time period, but I've chosen one and stuck to it. I'm using some reference pictures, the instruction manual and a reference book. You can absolutely follow along with mine, or you can use your own reference pictures and apply the same techniques. With that being said, let's jump into it. So to start off, you're going to need a few paints. The main ones for this desert camo scheme are AK Interactive's RLM 78, RLM 79, and RLM 80. I personally bought these in a pack because I plan on doing more Luftwaffe tropical camo schemes in the future, but you can absolutely just buy the individual colors to save some money. And like always, at any point in the video, if you don't have these exact paints, just use something similar that you already have at home. I've already gone ahead and assembled the plane and painted and weathered the cockpit following the instruction manual. So now we're ready to move on to the fun part, which is the paint scheme. We're going to start with 2 coats of Vallejo USN Ghost Grey primer over the entire plane. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while now, you'll know that we usually start with black primer. But in this case, we're actually starting lighter, and you'll see why in the next step. Once that's dry, we're going to come in with some Vallejo black and carefully spray along the panel lines. Use a tight spray and go slow here. What we're doing is creating a subtle pre-shading effect to imitate paint fading from the hot desert sun, which many of these aircraft experienced heavily. Only apply this to areas exposed to sunlight. The top of the wings and the horizontal stabilizers, the fuselage and the spine of the aircraft too. Leave the underside mostly clean because it wouldn't fade in the same way. If you make a mistake or go too heavy, that is all right. Just come back in later with the Ghost Grey and clean it up. This is a very small detail, but it really will pay off later. Once everything's dry, we'll move on to RLM 78 1941. We'll spray this on the underside of the plane wings, the belly, the lower parts of the fuselage, and the vertical stabilizer. When spraying over the pre-shaded areas, use very thin coats and build it up slowly. We want to still see that subtle shading underneath, don't completely cover it. The aim here is to go very slowly until you are happy with how it looks. Along the fuselage, spray this color from nose to tail, keeping the top of the line roughly in line with the bottom edge of the cockpit. Don't stress about perfect lines along the fuselage yet. We can tidy that up when we apply the next color. Next, we'll take RLM 79 1941 and paint the rest of the aircraft. The upper fuselage and spine of the plane, the tops of the wings, and the horizontal stabilizers. I taped off the vertical stabilizer just to protect the work we've already done. Again, use very thin coats here and build it up very slowly. We want to build these coats up enough that the pre-shading work isn't too obvious, but not so much that we just lose it completely. If the pre-shading shows too much, it's too obvious and looks fake, and if you can't see any pre-shading, then obviously it's not going to look sun faded. We want to find a nice even balance here. Subtlety is always key. Now for the line where the blue and brown meet along the fuselage of the plane. Use a very tight spray with a steady hand and go very slow. If you really need, you can use tape or blue tack here. I personally just eyeballed it with a very tight spray. Based on my reference photos, the line between the two colors is slightly soft rather than a hard line. I carefully sprayed this line in first with the brown and then came back and filled the rest of the fuselage in. Like we can see in the reference photos, this line goes from the nose of the plane all the way to the vertical stabilizer with a small curve at the very end. And it's nearly in line with the bottom of the cockpit windows. What do you prefer? Masking your camo lines with blue tack or freehanding it like this? Let me know down below. Now it's time for the green mottle that makes this camouflage scheme so iconic. If you look at the pictures from the time, we can see just how effective this camo scheme was in the North African theater of war. To paint this, we'll use RLM 80. This is where your reference photo really becomes important. On the wings, I aimed for 4 to 5 dots per panel because that's what my reference photo has. Keep these dots random in shape, different sizes, some smaller, some bigger, some round and some stretched and in different shapes. The point here is to vary out your shapes and sizes. In the war, the camo scheme was meant to imitate shrubs and bushes in the desert. No 2 dots should be exactly the same size or shape. We'll do the same thing for the horizontal stabilizers, then we move on to the fuselage. Important detail here, the mottle sits on both the brown and the blue, not just one color. I started at the back on the vertical stabilizer and worked my way down to the nose of the airplane. Again, nearly every single dot I applied, I was looking at the reference picture first. When applying these dots with different shapes and sizes, We also want to make sure the spacing is good as well. Throughout this whole process, make sure all your dots are fairly evenly distributed among the plane. We want to make everything look evenly spread out. I started with a lower guideline of dots to control the height, then filled in the rest above. We can see the dots only go about halfway down on the fuselage, with the lowest ones being on the nose and below the cockpit windows. Don't put any Mottle on the cockpit frames. Those stayed completely RLM 79 in my reference pictures. Take your time here and go as slow as you need. This step really defines the look of the aircraft, and we want to make sure we get this as good looking as possible. Do you prefer a heavy Mottle or a more subtle look on the Luftwaffe aircraft? I'm curious what you guys go for. Let me know in the comments below. Once you're happy with the camo, let everything dry completely. While that's happening, you can then paint up the landing gear, propeller, exhausts, intakes, and navigation lights. Just follow your instruction manual here. Again, once everything is dry, attach your landing gear and then apply 2 or 3 coats of AK Interactive Intermediate Gauzy agent. This will protect your paint, prepare the surfaces for decals, and help everything go on smoothly. If you want to see how I apply decals, check out my full decal tutorial linked in the description or click here. Once those decals are on, apply another coat of Gauzy agent and let it dry completely. Next, we'll use Vallejo Wash FX Dark Brown. Apply it to panel lines, fuel caps, and any other small details on your plane. I like to do small parts of the plane at once, so I can handle the rest of the plane with ease. Let it sit for about 5 minutes, then take a cotton tip with a bit of water and gently wipe away the excess. This leaves the wash in the recessed areas, creating depth and contrast. It'll also act as a bit of a blender, helping us bring all the colors together and soften any harsh transitions. Do this for the whole plane, on top and below. To get that sandy desert look, we'll take Vallejo Iraqi sand or something similar, heavily thin it, and spray it on the underside, landing gear, and wheels. This really gives those parts of the aircraft a faded sandy look. You can also very lightly apply it to areas like the wing roots where pilots walk, maintenance areas, and around panels. Anywhere dust and sand would naturally build up. Next, we'll take some Vallejo white aluminium and add some light chipping. Let's focus on wing roots, leading edges, and access panels. Keep it subtle and don't go overboard here. We'll also take Vallejo dry earth and apply it to the wheels and the landing gear, just to push that dusty, sandy effect even further, especially on the wheels. Lastly, we'll mix Vallejo black and RLM dark gray and spray exhaust stains behind the exhaust stacks and lightly along the fuselage and slightly underneath. This simulates the exhaust and oil buildup from engine use. Again, keep it subtle because too much will look out of place. Once everything is fully dry, we'll finish with Ammo MIG Ultra Matte Lucky Varnish. This will knock down the excess shine, protect our weathering work, and bring everything together. And there you go. That's how you paint up a BF109 in tropical desert camouflage. This scheme looks fantastic once it's all weathered up, and those subtle details like the fading and the panel line wash really bring it to life. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, make sure to hit like and drop a comment below. Let me know if you have or are going to attempt this camo scheme. And if you're new here, subscribe and feel free to check out the rest of the channel for more tutorials just like this. Until next time, happy modeling, and I'll catch you on the next one.